Mr. Clerk,
Mayor Joseph,
here.
Councilman Galvin, Councilwoman Keys,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bieneme, Councilman Azume. Mayor, we have a quorum to proceed.
Okay, we will proceed with Pledge of Allegiance. Is it Commander Mezido?
Everyone face the flag. Put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commander. Now we proceed with Commander Brinson with invocation.
Let us all bow. Father in heaven, we thank you for all your blessings. We thank you for life, health, and strength. We thank you for the opportunity for all of us to gather here today to go about the city's business. We hope and pray that everything said and done here will go for the upbuilding of our great city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, we have the agenda here. At this time, we'll ask the manager to please present any addition, deletion, amendments.
I do not have any changes, but just want to remind everybody that we do have the quasi judicial item at the end, and they should fill out. Are the cards in the back? Yeah, they are. The cards can be filled out in the back if you want to speak on the item.
Okay, special presentation. We'll all go down and join the Chief of Police, Chief Juriga, in a special presentation.
That's good. Good evening, everyone, Mayor and council members. The Officers of the Month for January 2019 are Detective Gideus Frederick and Detective Rocio Torres, if they would both join me. Detectives Torres and Frederick received reports from the mother of a 6- and an 8-year-old who had advised that a family associate had been molesting these two young girls for quite a long time. As a result of the accusations, forensic interviews were scheduled and probable cause was obtained to bring the subject in for questioning. The subject was questioned at our police department by these two fine detectives, and after acting as a team and continuing to interview this subject for several hours, they were able to obtain a full confession where this predator admitted to molesting these two young children for many, many months. Detective Gideus Frederick and Detective Rocio Torres arrested the subject and brought comfort to these traumatized juveniles as well as their mother. Through their tenacious efforts, these detectives protected these young victims from further harm and prevented this subject from victimizing anyone else. The actions of both detectives are to be commended. Standing up for justice and protecting our citizens, especially our young children, is their sworn duty. They were truly guardians in this case. Please join me in recognizing these two fine detectives. And Rocio, ladies first, on behalf of the mayor and the council and the city, here's your recognition for Officer of the Month, January 2019. And Gideus, also for you, sir. On behalf of the city and the mayor and council, here's your recognition.
A little tall. Thank you for everyone for being here and helping recognize myself and Detective Frederick. We love what we do, and we love helping the citizens of the city of North Miami day in and day out. So thank you for having us.
Once again, thank you. Like my partner said, we pretty much work a lot of our cases hand in hand as a team, as a duo. Thank you to the chief and also the city mayor, council, and everybody else. And we really do appreciate working for the city of North Miami. Thank you.
We need a motion for the consent agenda. Agenda items A and B. It's only A and B.
That's the, Mr. I'm just opening it. Oh, okay, never mind.
What is B?
No,
Wait. Can we
Sure,
put
B,
B for discussion?
all right, so I guess I got a motion to approve the consent agenda, only tab A. That motion was, that motion was made by Councilman Desmay. Do I have a second? No, there was no motion. You said the motion to approve consent agenda, only tab A.
Only tab A.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a second made by Councilman Galvin. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Item B, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement in substantially the attached form between the city of North Miami and Circle of One Marketing, Inc. to provide marketing services for the Clean City Task Force and providing for an effective date and all other purposes. That was tab B.
And have some explanation. Sorry.
yes, sir. Several weeks ago, we did a presentation on the Clean City Task Force, and at that presentation, we brought Circle of One. We showed some of the marketing materials that they had. We explained at that meeting that we were going to bring back an agreement with them to carry on with the future services. Unfortunately, I wasn't here this week, so I wasn't able to brief you on it, so I apologize for that. But this is that agreement. Through this agreement, they would be providing all sorts of the marketing materials, the T-shirts, the logos, some of the materials they've already done, but future materials, the Earth Day presentation, all of that would be covered for the rest of for a 1 calendar year. The contract is for $90,000 a year, which is why it's under consent agenda, because it would have been under the $100,000.
That's when the marketing company is gonna cost $90,000
Yes, sir.
for marketing.
Yes, sir.
How much? How many people do we have on the street? Employees in that task force.
I believe it's 11. I believe it's 11.
The question, sir. What's the question?
How many employees do we have
In what, sir?
for that cleanup team? That's two
That's
separate
two
things.
separate things.
The
clean
marketing for
clean
what?
So the marketing is, for example, we were just talking about it earlier today. Cagney Park, one of the issues of Cagney Park is that with the clean team, the folks that are going out cleaning, they're finding that there's a lot of trash there because the kids that play in the park are leaving chips and putting in potato chips in bags and that sort of thing. So we would do a event at Cagney Park for those kids to try to educate to not clean, to not litter. So those type of materials, getting the press, all that backup would be done by the marketing team.
What marketing? If they don't have garbage can to put those chips and things like
So
that, where you think they are?
this is only one part. As we tried, I know I spent a whole lot of time on that
Yeah, but
presentation.
I understand. You
This
said
is
you're
only
gonna
one this is only
you're
one
gonna
part.
spend
of-
$90,000 on marketing, right?
Say again, sir.
You're gonna spend $90,000 for marketing.
If you approve the contract tonight, yes, you would be approving a contract for $90,000 to
Just to teach the kids not to
all the
throw
residents.
those plastic on the street.
It
But
would.
where they're gonna put it?
Where
If
would
we don't have trash can at those parks.
Sure, this is only one piece of the Clean City Task Force, one of the recommendations that we're making. So right now, your efforts to clean a city, right now, is 13
Excuse
people.
me, give me a few seconds to open it to the public and then bring
After
it. The item is now open to the public. That's tab B. Tab B.
Jim Garrett, 11610 North Bay Shore Drive. I spoke to Councilman Keys and Mr. Cazot, or City Attorney. I think that this marketing effort is needed in our community, number one. Number two, I think that we also need to get the illegal dumping people, like the one that was out in my neighborhood on Saturday night when I left at 10:30, and I confronted him on the corner of Northeast 18th Avenue and North Bay Shore Drive, and he gave me the universal sign of love. Okay? When I confronted him. Thank you, North Miami Police Department, for coming out and surrounding, going back and getting him. I think it's needed in this community. We need to also do a thing. The legal dumping is out of control. We can have so many people or city workers collecting the trash, but there are people coming in here and they dumping because we have a generous policy with large trash pickups once a week. Every lawn guy in Northeast State County is coming in here and dumping their stuff in this city. That's the realization. Yes, we need to educate our residents. And also, we do need cans in the parks, in the major parks, too.
Who's
But
timing
also-
this? Who's timing this? Nobody's timing.
Okay. But however, the parents need to take responsibility and give them a good a good swift kick in the where. If I have a litter, my dad would have kicked me in the where. So that's part of the responsibility. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jessica Olson, 1140 Northwest 125th Street. I think that $90,000 is excessive amount of money for doing a propaganda campaign about cleaning the city. I think that it may be able to be combined with some other entity. I don't believe that all those funds are necessary for that project. And I would like to say, in regards to the clean team, once they spray the streets, cleaning up the leaves, they need to bag the leaves. They need to bag the leaves. Otherwise, when they leave, they just disassemble back where they were before. Just a note. Thank you.
All right, public hearing is now closed on the item. We'll come back to the dais. The Vice Mayor Bien-Aimé.
I don't think there's anybody here opposing to clean up the city. What we are discussing is spending $90,000 for marketing. In that 90,000, did you include education?
Sir, it is education. I mean, that's what this this is. Again, I apologize. I wasn't here this week. I was out on city business. I could have given a presentation or prepared a presentation. If you want to hold off, we can bring this item back and we'll do a full presentation, and I can go through all the slides and show you why we're doing this. But it's marketing, it's education, it's a number of things that we can't do as staff that we're asking a marketing company to do. I mean, they would do. And we've talked about any number of things that they would do in terms of educating the community.
But Mr. Kazo, you said we cannot do it. Staff cannot do it. Understand that we have a PIO department. If you add $90,000 to the budget and ask them to expand the educational part, and I'm pretty much sure they will be able to do the job, don't you? Don't you think that?
I don't know, sir.
Because I understand you're gonna educate the kids, but
sir, it's not.
there's
This,
no
I gave you one example. It's not just the kids. You keep saying the kids, but it's an education campaign for the 60,000 residents that are in the city. It's not just the kids. I gave you one example.
You're telling me PIO cannot do the job. You have to hire an outside company and spend $90,000 to do the job, right?
Mr. But if I may.
Can I finish?
Oh, I thought you were done.
No, I'm not done. Yes.
Vice Mayor, what I would say is, obviously the PIO has its normal duties that they're doing. This would be a supplement to that. So it's not that I wouldn't want to put this level of additional resources on on the PIO's office. This is something that we would certainly need
But,
some
Mr.
supplementals.
Manager, if I may, you don't have any expert who does marketing in PIO. So I don't think they could do it. That's just me to say that because they don't do marketing. What they do is public information, which is what they would do. So if you need to, you know, the only reason that I asked the item, I did not really know. I'm not really questioning the price or what was questioning the item. I just was
That's
asking
not
about
what
it
we
until
said.
I
I'm
read it.
talking. We did
No,
not
but
say
you-
if you question. I'm questioning, not
Okay,
you.
but are you done?
I'm not done.
Okay, when you're done, I would like to
I'm not
follow up with your
questioning the
thing.
item. I'm just questioning the fact that we are spending $90,000 just for information, to put information out there, when it is something that we can do in house, or put more people on the street to clean up the street, more garbage trash in our parks and public places. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not.
I mean, if it's the will of the council, we'll, table the item and bring it back. So we have a further conversation with you.
Because we need to clean up the street, but we
are,
need to
and-
put more people on the street
And
to clean up the street. And in some area, there is no trash can, there is no recycle garbage can in our parks and public facilities. I think we should spend money on those first, then start educating people not to put the trash on the floor.
Well, we are doing, as you know, we are undertaking all of those items operationally right now. We do have the clean team out, that's out every day, 5 days a week. We've been working with parks, because I know we've had some issues in some of the parks that have been in the paper, and we've addressed those. So it's all part of, it's just multiple pieces of this process. But if you choose to table the item now, I mean,
Go ahead. Good.
Yes, I'm done.
I honestly think that we need it. I mean, reading the detail of the, of the summary of the item, I don't know if the questioning is 90,000 for a marketing firm, which is too low, but it is what it is. I mean, it is work. You are talking about, you are talking about marketing for an entire city of 65,000 folks to, encompass education and everything. And as someone who used to do marketing for the Children's Trust and so many other companies, I'm not really questioning the amount. So I'm okay with moving forward as far as the marketing aspects of it, and especially what I've seen when I've gone to various events and seen the marketing aspects from the Zoe Summer Groove, and the branding of the city task force group, and I think that's something that is needed.
Okay, since
I'm still applauding our city attorney for starting this initiative with the clean team. It's an entire package. Unfortunately, we're piecemealing this, and I think it's important for our residents. Educating them, telling them what they can and can't do. Having our residents, it's not just telling what they can't do, it's educating our public, letting them know that we are working, giving them a better sense of pride of their community. It's a whole thing. I go to North Miami Beach, I see the cars with the clean team. I was like, wow, this is great. The city really cares about them. It's all a package. It's all marketing. It's making our residents feel good. Not my business to know whether this is a good price or not. We have our purchasing, and if our attorney says, Mr. Cazot says, this is what we need and these are the right people, then I'm all for it, because we do need some amount. We're gonna not do it because we can get it for $10,000 somewhere else. I think it's important. I'm very proud of our clean team and what we're doing.
Councilwoman Keys, I'm not questioning the people on the street, the clean team. I will be in favor of putting more money in the clean team, more trucks. As far as trucks, we have 2 trucks right now. They have to send them to repair, and at any time one of them can can stop on the street.
We-
That's
if
what
we
I'm
need
talking
more
about,
money,
putting
if we-
90,000 in somewhere else.
I say we do both.
That's what I said. It's not
Keep-
like we're spending more money in marketing when they don't have a pickup truck to pick up the trash. That's what I'm talking about.
I think one of the most important things for the residents that I talk to, the biggest complaint, biggest problem is cleanliness in this city, and we're finally starting to do something. It is so important. People drive through our city. We've got drive-through. If we need more trucks, then we should just add it to our budget. But if this is part of the whole package, then I'm in agreement with Mr. Cazot. Let's do it all.
Anything? The only point of information that I would like to state is I'm looking at I don't know if it's the possible, well, that's not the actual contract, about the scope of work. The scope of work says consultant shall provide the city with strategy and marketing implementation services, including social media. Well, that's pretty much the same thing they said when they were here. But I would like to see a more detailed demarcation or delineation of all the services that they're going to actually execute once that contract is in effect. I mean, I would like to see it. I mean, for the we said $90,000. How many hours they intend to spend, going around, educating those. It's not just kids and adults, because adults do later as well. So it's not gonna be an easy task. And periodically, I would like to see some kind of report to see what kind of progress is being made. So we cannot just give them a blank, card and say, okay, here's $90,000, go out there and do
If I may,
whatever.
Mayor, if I may respond to that.
Yeah.
One, they're responding directly to what the Clean City Task Force is asking them to do. So if you've seen what they've done so far, they've done all the banners that we've used at our cleaning events. They've done the T-shirts. They've done the coloring books. They've done the PSA commercial that we've had. They've gone out and made sure that there was media at our events. There's nothing that they cannot do. The reason we've kept it almost general is because we want to make sure that any idea that we come up with, that they will be able to implement. And so far they have been able to, but I don't want to come up with a specific list and then we decide that, hey, we want to have a hot air balloon and we can't do a hot air balloon because it's not a part of the list. They're doing everything that we've requested them to do, and that's what the contract
we can
says.
put we can itemize and say not limited to.
Yeah, we can add that, but,
Yeah,
but
we can add
what I'm
that.
telling you is that the
Yeah.
contract already covers
At least
that.
we'll have an idea.
The contract covers pretty much
Yeah.
anything that we can come up with.
Mr. Mayor? One last question. There is a termination of 90-day notice to the other party. Can we get that to 60? Would that,
That's fine.
that way, if we see that it's not working, we're not going to spend it, we're spending $7,500 a month.
That's fine.
Okay,
We
so
can change it to
if we
60.
feel it's not working, we can always just stop it.
Okay, we need a motion to either approve or table. I understand there was that possibility, that request of tabling. I'll take any of them.
I'll make a motion to approve it with a change to a 60-day termination clause.
Second.
Just to be clear, that's regarding your changes, not the changes the mayor also requested. So is your motion to approve with the amendments regarding the changes you approved only, or are we going to include what the mayor?
What
I would
changes?
like
Did you want something else added?
just for the itemization.
We'll just we'll provide a
itemization of.
we'll just
tasks.
provide it.
Okay, so, which would also include itemization recommended by the mayor.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion made by Councilwoman Keys to approve tab B with the amendments proposed by both Councilwoman Keys as stated on the record and Mayor Smith Joseph as stated on the record. That motion was seconded by Councilman Dezume. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passed with item passed with amendments with a 5-0 vote. Tab C, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the execution of a settlement agreement in substantially the attached form by and between the city of North Miami and North Miami Houses LLC relative to anticipated litigation, providing for repeal, an effective date, and all other purposes. That's tab C.
Is there a presentation?
That's me again, Mayor. If you all recall, back in September, there was we had an item where we revoked the short-term rental, the grandfathering of short-term rental status to property in the city. That happened in September. In October, they filed an appeal that would have gone to the special magistrate. Since that time, we've been going back and forth with the attorney. And this is the settlement agreement that we can't come up with. I could have done this in the executive session, decided this was pretty much open. Everyone knew what the issues were, so it wasn't really an issue. What they've decided, what we've agreed to, is that they would voluntarily cease using that property for short-term rentals on April 30th. And then after that, I'm not sure what they would do with the property. They would rent it, sell it, whatever. But they would voluntarily cease April 30th. The benefit to the city is that there's no litigation, there's no appeal. We know date certain that this is done. And then we could, if they were to turn around and continue to use the property as a short-term rental, they could no longer argue that they were grandfathered in as a short-term rental, and we would be able to prosecute them as we would any other property acting as a short-term rental. So this is a resolution of that matter, and we recommend that you approve it tonight.
Thank you very much. At this point of time, we'll open the item to the public. For whoever wants to be heard, please come to the mic. See no one, hear none. Public hearing is therefore closed. Back to the dais for any concerns, questions.
We had spoken, Mr. Attorney, about the discontinuation of advertising. I believe, as of a couple weeks ago, there's still advertisements.
What happened, and one of the reasons we ended up settling with them, is that this property was under contract, which would have gone beyond the time that we had revoked the short-term rental. So they would have been in contractual issues, which is what was prompting them to seek legal actions against us. So right now, they're able to continue as a short-term rental, as a grandfathered property, up until that April 30th. So you will see some advertising up until then for whatever dates that are in between those dates that they already had rented. But as of April 30th, they would cease short-term rental.
Is there any way we could include, I hate to go back and renegotiate a settlement agreement, but is there any way that if they do not cease, that we could go back and when we cite them, they are treated as a repeat offender? Is that a possibility? If they agreed to it, we could.
There wouldn't be any need to enter into an agreement with that because they're either a repeat offender or they're not. So, 1, 2, 3 times of doing this, they would be a repeat offender. I don't need their agreement to do that. And I would hate to not enter into this agreement on that point, which I would get anyway, so.
No further questions.
Any other questions, concerns? If not, we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion made by Councilwoman Keys to approve tab C. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Tab D, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the selection of Aromatic Controls, Inc., APEC Tech Electrical and Air Conditioning, Inc., and Cool Breeze Air Conditioning Corp. as the lowest responsible contractors for the maintenance and repair of air conditioning systems in city facilities in accordance with invitation for bid number 81-17-18, air conditioning repair and maintenance services, further authorizing the city manager and city attorney to negotiate and execute agreements with the three selected contractors from the provision of the stated services in an amount not to exceed $99,000 annually, providing for an effective date and all other purposes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Alberto Estrada, Purchasing Director. The item that you have before you under tab D represents the results of solicitation number 811718 issued by my office for the purpose of soliciting bids from qualified and experienced firms to provide the city with air conditioning, repair, and maintenance services for all city facilities. As reflected in the council report that was submitted in support of the item, the city received 8 proposals in response to the solicitation. The tabulation of these 8 proposals can be found on the second page of the report. In order to ensure a prompt and effective level of service for AC maintenance for all city facilities, staff's recommendation is for the council to select and recommend award to the top 3 firms. In other words, the lowest 3 bidders under this solicitation, and they are Aromatic Controls, Apex Techs Electrical, and Cool Breeze Air Conditioning Corporation. The assignment of work for each one of these firms shall be distributed by staff so as to ensure a reliable level of service throughout the 24 different facilities covered under this contract. The initial term of the contract shall be for 3 years, and it will have 2 additional 1-year options to renew. The aggregate amount, as was mentioned previously, for this contract will not exceed $99,000 a year. This concludes my presentation, and if you have any questions, I will be glad to take them.
Thank you very much. We'll open the item to the public at this time. For
Evan Ross, 17301 Biscayne Boulevard, on behalf of Apex Tech. First, I want to take a moment to thank Mr. Destrade, Mr. Ford for the work that they did on this. They did an excellent job with this procurement. I also want to thank them for the recommendation of splitting this between the 3 highest ranked firms. Apex Tech was your only bidder that qualified for local preference. Their office is actually right next door, just a block away. So they're right here when you need them. They've also, since soon prior to this procurement going out, been doing work for your police athletic league at our facility in the city at no cost to PAL. They've just been volunteering their time and providing all of that work at no cost for labor and dead cost for parts. So I want to thank staff again and ask that you approve the item as recommended tonight. Thank you very much.
public hearing is still open, but I see no one coming. Public hearing is therefore closed. Any comments from the dais? Hmm?
What is Mr. Evan talking about?
Don't worry about that.
No, because no, part of it was like, I'm like, okay, never mind.
I think you chose what, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, right?
We had a discussion and with Councilman DeSume, one of the recommendations is that instead of just having one firm, we would have 3 firms. That will give us more efficiency and cover the work and be able to spread it out. So that's what you have before you.
So you got it, your facts wrong, Mr. Ross, but it's okay.
That's 99,000 in total, right? To be split. All right. Then a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab D. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Tab E.
Thank you.
Proposed ordinance, second reading of the Mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, amending Chapter 7 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Finance at Article 3 entitled Procurement Code by amending Division 10 entitled Prohibition on the Use of Expanded Polystyrene to prohibit the use of single-use plastic beverage straws by city contractors and special event permittees in city facilities and on city property, providing for repeal, conflicts, severability, codification, and for an effective date. That was tab E, Mayor.
This is an item that was sponsored by the Councilwoman Keys. This is second reading. As the title says, it's pretty self-explanatory. This would be a prohibition of sale of plastic straws by any city contractor or any special event permittees on any city-owned property or during any city-owned or any city events. This would just be added to the section in our code that deals with polystyrene. Several years ago, you banned the use of polystyrene in the city or in city facilities, and this is just an expansion of that law.
I just came to mind. So this ordinance will be presented to anyone seeking to rent any of the community centers for any reception, no?
Yes, any city-owned facilities. So any events that are at a city-owned facility.
So
you
this will
would
be
get-
attached to whatever information we're gonna present to them.
It should, yes.
For them to know.
Yes.
Public hearing is open on the item. Item E, as in Easter. See no one here, none. Public hearing is therefore closed. Did you want to say something, Mr. Manager?
8 straws.
Just appreciate council's support on this. Wish we could do more, and hopefully we will be implementing a program for volunteering for our local businesses and restaurants to not use the plastic, styrofoams, and straws. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the city attorney, I assume that by approving this tonight, we'll be under the wire, so to speak, for the state's preemption that's coming down on this issue.
Yeah, so there has been some talk of the state coming in and preempting cities and municipalities from banning the use of plastic straws. But in those cases, and we were pretty careful to limit this to ourselves, so I'm pretty sure that anything that happens at the state level wouldn't affect this. The cities that have been a problem to the state, or what they see as a problem, are those cities that have banned the use throughout the city. And so restaurants and stores, they're not able to use it. Ours is pretty limited to only our facilities, and so even if they ban it or if they preempt it, it probably wouldn't affect ours.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab E. That motion was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Mayor Joseph, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Councilman Galvin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bieneme? Councilwoman Keys?
Yes.
And Councilman Zume?
Yes.
Item passes with a 5-0 vote. Tab F, proposed ordinance, second reading of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, amending Chapter 5 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Building Standards and Regulations at Article 5, Construction Fees and Regulations, Section 5-36 of the North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled Construction Site Maintenance, to add a requirement that there shall be no accumulation of debris around construction sites, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for an effective date. That was tab F.
Mayor and Council, this is an item that's second reading. This was sponsored by Councilman Galvin. As we discussed last meeting, this arose, there were several complaints from residents regarding construction sites near their neighborhoods and tires being punctured by nails and debris and unsightliness. So we're making a minor change to this section of the code, and what this requires, before we require that the contractors maintain the site itself. We're making a slight change to the code to require them to maintain the property around the construction site. That way, we'd be able to enforce it through code enforcement. So if we find things like overflowing canisters and that sort of thing, debris in the street, this would create the ability for code to go out and cite them for that.
For code to wait, say that again, Mister.
This would give code the ability to cite in an instance where a contractor had an unsightly area around the construction site. Before this, when we got complaints that there were nails or there were other objects in the road or on outside the property, there really wasn't anything in our code that addressed that. This addresses that.
This is the item from last time.
This is second
Oh,
reading.
okay.
All right. Public hearing is now on the item. Item F as in Frank. See none, hear none. Public hearing is closed.
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
You talk about around, does around mean inside the fence line? I mean, the sidewalk line? I mean, or is that the swale, or?
We left it vague. So around is whatever the code enforcement person comes out and sees, or what the complainant or the resident says that the debris is, and we'd have to take this to the special magistrate and plead our case. But I didn't want to, again, you don't want to say it's one area and then it becomes another area and we can't enforce it because now it's not in the swale, it's actually in the street, or it's 6 feet out in the street.
'Cause I sent you pictures last night of a construction site, no fence, and there's a big pile of construction debris in the swale.
So that would be around the construction
Yeah,
site.
that would be around.
Yeah. So we'd now be able to enforce
So
this.
now, I'm just reading this, I just have a question. I mean, it's going on with code enforcement. It says construction fencing, and it says for any construction, you're supposed to have a construction fence? Is that correct? Any kind of construction? Is it?
Construction, in this code, so construction site, whatever that is.
Because we have a lot of construction sites in my neighborhood, an awful lot. And there's a lot of construction, there's no fence. And there'll be a porta potty sitting in someone's front yard and it's just been there, there's no fence doing that. There's other construction sites, we do have our dumpsters, which are to the top, but, it seems like a lot of these properties are not being fenced. There's one that's really mostly, it's been taken down, the granite's up, and the only fencing is like these posts, like an aluminum fence, but there's no screening on it.
So are you suggesting that we have fences at every construction
I don't know,
site?
I'm just, while we're on the topic, I'm just asking the question, because.
The answer is, this doesn't require that, so we'd have to set another standard
It will-
that we require. So if you're doing construction at your own home, you don't have to fence off your own home while you're building a new bedroom or something. You just have to clean up your mess that spills out into the street.
Steve Pizzolo, building official for the city, through the manager. We've always had them fence anytime where they were expanding the footprint of the building, or if they were like demolishing and the structure itself would be open to the public. If all of the work is contained like inside, they're doing an interior remodel and there's no way of getting inside of the property, then we would not require fencing.
So we do require fencing if you're doing exterior work.
Only if the envelope of the building is open at any time so that somebody can come in.
What does that mean in layman's terms, envelope of the building?
Missing windows, missing doors, that the building itself is not secured and is able to get, is able to be somebody to just to walk in.
Vandalized.
And porta potties are allowed to just be in people's yards without any fencing, or? I'm
Yes.
just asking.
Yes.
Yes, so we don't need fencing, they just get to be there for a long time.
You'd be surprised how many joggers come out of porta potties in the morning.
Okay, I was just,
All right,
I'm just
thank you.
wondering, we're
Hmm?
just wondering, because
Wish
we
of
have
the
a lot of, I mean, this came up because we do have a lot of construction going on, a lot of mess, a lot of messy sites, so thank you, Councilman.
All right, you gonna vote?
Move approval.
Second,
Motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab F. That motion was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Councilman Zume, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Joseph?
Yeah.
Councilman Galvin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Keys?
here, yes, here, yes.
Vice Mayor
Yes.
Bieneme?
Yes.
Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Tab G, proposed ordinance, first reading of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, amending chapter 11 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled License and Business Regulations to establish Article, I guess that's 9, Article 9, controlled, that's 11, Roman numeral 11, controlled residential parking areas limited to those who live in proximity to the zoned area, providing for inclusion in the code of the city of North Miami and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, Council, this is first reading on an ordinance. This arose from several complaints that we got from residents. particularly on the 135th and the Arch Creek area. And I know, Councilwoman, you and I spoke about some complaints that we got on 125th Street. But this would apply. 123rd, sorry, 123rd Street. But this would apply citywide. What this does is, this is the ordinance that would allow the city to, in the future, create parking regulations or residential parking zones, so that if there's a community that's affected by vehicles from outside the community parking in that area, we would be able to establish a residential parking area in that area. That can be done in two ways. It can be done either by the manager if there's a need, and usually that would be residents coming and pointing out that there's a need for a residential parking area, or the residents themselves can petition the city by getting 51% of the neighbors in that area to request that a residential parking area be set up. If for some reason the majority of the residents don't want something like that, then as long as, if 60% of the residents come and say, we don't want a residential parking area, then there's no residential parking area. No residential parking areas are created by this ordinance. All this does is the enacting ordinance that allows us to do it in the future. In the future, you will get future ordinances that would actually enact or create those parking areas, either through the manager or through the residents if they come and petition for it. So we recommend approval.
Okay, item is open to the public. That would be tab G as in good. Could be God too. Yes. She's right there.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Holt, 1050 Northeast 122nd Street. I just more or less have a question on this.
Pull the microphone down. Yeah.
Okay. Does that mean, that doesn't mean that it's created for the neighborhood so everybody can park in the swales? Or does that mean that the owner of that property has the exclusive use of that? So businesses don't come or overflow from something else, comes in and uses your front yard because it's a swale as a parking area? I just would like a clarification, if I may.
Mr. Attorney, you wanna?
So again, this is residential parking. So the idea is, for example, in the example of the 135th Street Arch Creek, right? One of the issues that we had in Arch Creek is, I believe the chief went out and we found someone had parked, one individual who lived on that street had parked 5 commercial vehicles in that street. There's limited parking on that street. So what we're able to do now is we'd be able to say, from the hours of 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., there's no commercial vehicles parked on that street. We'd also be able to say you're only able to park on that street if you have a residential parking decal or a visitor's.
Is Uber or Lyft considered commercial? Some people use them as their private vehicle.
We haven't defined, but typically what a commercial vehicle is going to be is something with a sign on the side of it on the van. So if there's a truck, a taxi cab, that sort of thing. So that's really what it is. It's not really meant to keep your neighbor off your swale. That's not really what it's meant to be. What it's meant to be is that it's individuals outside of that specific area are parking in there and causing a detriment to that neighborhood. And so that's probably the best example. There's probably going to be other examples.
In other words, you don't want people to go visit that area.
You can visit the area. I mean,
without a car.
No, you can visit the area if you're visiting someone in that area. There will be visitors passes that the residents in that area would be able to give their visitors to park in that area.
No, there will be passes.
So allow me to. She doesn't care about 135 and 123rd. She's talking about her neighborhood.
Yeah.
So let's now apply this to the area of Northeast 9th Avenue and 124th Street.
So
if they wanted to create their own residential parking sticker, et cetera, we haven't put all those standards in place yet. Can they?
Yes, and again, it would depend on which area, what you want. So whatever the problem is, we'd be able to address it here. So if it's nighttime parking, then we could restrict nighttime parking. If it's daytime parking, we can restrict daytime parking. If we don't want people who live in that condominium coming into this residential neighborhood, then those people from that condominium won't have these stickers and they wouldn't be able to park in that area.
Oh, okay. I want to know outside people overflow from someplace else, come in and park, on your neighborhood. Right. Okay. So.
And again, one more time, this doesn't create any of those districts. This is just the enabling ordinance that would allow us to do that in the future. Okay. So all of the definitions and what we're actually going to be doing, that'll come up later, and you all would approve those districts when they come to you.
Mr. Mayor, if the public hearing is closed, I'll move approval.
I don't know what are we approving for. I'm lost.
So
Mr.
let me,
Gowan.
do you want to do his description again? You want me to do it? Because my voice sounds like heck, but here's what's happening, Alex, Councilman DeSume. On Northeast 135th Street, east of Biscayne, Arch Creek East neighborhood. That whole area should not have been built the way it's been built.
Got it.
There's not enough parking on the street for the people who live there. And people who live in the condos on the south side, who have their own parking garages, are being a little lazy, and instead of parking in their own building, they're just parking on the street. And then as Mr. Kazoo said, we even have people who are parking commercial vehicles on the street. As a result, nobody knows which cars belong to which people. Nobody knows if they're there legitimately or not legitimately, if they're commercial or not commercial. What we're talking about doing is creating a parking permit situation where Building A would have a green permit, I'm just making this up right now. Building B would have a red permit, and then you start to know where the cars are from and whether or not they're there legally. Right now, I used to live in the townhouses on the north side of the street. People would park in front of my townhouse who weren't me, and I couldn't even park in front of my own house because they parked there and then walked into the condos on the south side. So we're trying to come up with a creative way to sort of police it a little bit.
Okay.
What about the public parking?
If there's like down by the preserve, there's like
Yeah.
6 or 7 spots.
Yeah.
I don't think we're looking to
Anybody
regulate that.
can,
Well, no, you
park
could-
there?
Unless it was overnight parking.
Yeah, you could restrict it. This is using a bunch
For
of.
that one, I'm talking about the
Yeah,
public-
we
public
could
area.
set up something there, and then we'd have, police go by at night, and if someone illegally parked there that didn't have the appropriate sticker, they would be ticketed and possibly towed.
That's when you're gonna be no night parking there.
Well, there's no night parking there now.
Technically,
Technically.
the park is closed.
What you could do is, because there's limited parking there, you could open parking there at night, but only for residents that have the parking sticker.
Okay.
So it gives you a lot of opportunities to try to fix the
That-
issue.
And we can iron out all those details at future hearings. Right now, we're just trying to create the legislation that allows us to talk about that. Because right now, it's not even described in our
We're not
codes.
addressing just that area, it's the entire
No,
city.
this could apply
Like
citywide.
127 by the red, white, and blue.
Mhm.
That 127 between
So
6 and
this
3.
is only for commercial, or this is also residential?
It's resident, it's
to
areas,
regulate
parking areas.
parking the way we want people to park.
Okay, because I'm okay with supporting that, but when he said it's throughout the city, I'm
The possibility of establishing one anywhere in the
That's when we
city.
can
Oh, okay.
is
regulate an
available.
But
area
right
and
now,
It's not, we're not establishing any
Okay.
right now. We're giving ourselves the ability to establish.
okay.
That's when
Okay,
if there's
that's
an
fine.
area we feel like
No,
we
that's
need to
fine. I'll
address
support that because
yeah.
I think that addressed that area, Ninth
Yeah.
Avenue and
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. Okay,
And
thank
also
you.
127 and 6, right?
We can go deal with all of them.
Okay.
So I've moved approval, assuming public hearing was closed, Mr. Mayor.
I second.
Mayor, did you have public hearing on this item? Okay, so I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab G. That motion was seconded by Vice Mayor Bieneme. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Desiree?
Yes.
Mayor Joseph? Councilman Galvin?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Keys?
Yes.
Item passed with a 5-0 vote. Tab,
The next item is 9C, right? No, that's the section.
tab H, Mayor.
Hmm?
The next item is tab H.
Which is the quasi judicial item, right?
Yep.
Now, I just want to give a last opportunity for people who wants to be heard on the item H. On item H, this is the time. If you want to be heard on the item, you have to fill out a card because we're gonna swear you in. Did you need a card? Well, the card is just swearing. Oh, okay. She wants a card. We try to keep the drama to the minimum.
Tanya, you're the new IT person. So you focus on the computer.
No position. Okay.
Get those nerds from the back to come fix it.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Oh. Tab H. Proposed quasi-judicial resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving an application for a conditional use permit in substantially the attached form, allocating 175 residential units from the primary pool of 2,438 remaining floating residential units and 31,053 square feet from the pool of 750,000 square feet for non-residential use, reserved for use within the Neighborhood Redevelopment Overlay (NRO) district for a proposed mixed-use development featuring 175 senior apartments, retail, office, and event space on the one, period. 95, I guess that's 1.95 acre real property, generally located at 950 Northeast 124th Street and specifically identified with Miami-Dade County folio number 06-2230-040-0020 in accordance with Article 4, Division 4, Section 4-205B and Section 4-305 and Article 3, Division 4, Sections 3-402 through 3-407 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Chapter 29, entitled Land Development Regulations, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. That was tab H.
Thank you. For the record, Tanya Wilson with Community Planning and Development Department. This is a request for a conditional use permit review. This is a continued item, but there have been several changes on the proposed project, so I'm going to walk the council and the public back through the project specifics so you could be acclimated with what the request entails. The request, again, is for 175 dwelling units, as well as 31,053 square feet of non-residential square footage from the NRO pool. This is for the site with address 950 Northeast 124th Street. Property is currently zoned public use, and it has a future land use designation of community facility. It also has a zoning, a neighborhood overlay district overlay zoning in addition to the underlying zoning that's designated on the site. The current size is 1.95 acres in size. That's 84,763 square feet in size. And because it's located within the NRO, the property is allowed to have mixed use on site with a density of 90 dwellings per acre. I just want to point out in terms of the project changes, initially the council recalled that this project had contemplated assisted living facility and ALF component in the prior submittal. That has since been removed. There's also a reduction in the retail square footage that's being proposed of 700 square feet in terms of the reduction. Prior amount for the retail composition was 8,925 square feet, and the applicant is also looking to have an increase in office space as a part of this proposal. So there's a 12,000 square feet introduction of office use that was not in the prior submittal. There's also a 3,600 square feet retail space that's contemplated. In terms of the changes with the removal of the ALF and the inclusion of office space and reduction in retail, there's also a reduction in the traffic trips that are being generated from this project. So looking at the project itself, as I mentioned before, is proposed for mixed use with 175 elderly housing units. There's also a 5-level parking garage. It's contemplated with 220 parking spaces. In terms of the transitional standards that are within the code, built within the code, you'll notice from the site plan that's included in the packet that there are several levels that are being proposed with the project. Starting with 123rd Street, there's a 3-story structure, and then there's an increase in terms of the grade that you'll see in the buildings up to 6-story, and then the highest level you'll see at 7 stories is facing 124th Street. There's landscaping that's included on the perimeter of the property, as well as interior landscaping. And there's...
Hold on a second. Apparently there's no picture on the screen.
Oh, it's not coming into the feed. Okay, so I'll continue because there are additional slides that have the actual site plan that's built in. And then in terms of the setback requirement in the code requires that all the properties that are along 123rd Street be set back 35 feet. So you'll see a promenade that's being proposed in that area along 123rd Street. There's also a height restriction in that area that the property cannot be greater than 55 feet in height, although the NRO itself allows for 110 feet. So you see that there are inherent transition standards that are built into the code to ensure that there is that smooth transition between the lower density residential up to the higher density and then over into the commercial spaces. There's also underground utilities that are being proposed as a part of this project, and it contemplates 15%, at least 15% of workforce housing as a part of the proposal. So looking at the project attributes, there's also an economic analysis that's required as a part of the submittal. So I'm just going to pull out a few salient points that were provided as a part of that analysis. It anticipates that over 239 short-term construction jobs will be created as a result of this project. It's also anticipated that 0.17 million in permit and impact fees will be generated. There's 99 direct and indirect full-time jobs, annual jobs that are anticipated from the project. In terms of the tax impact, the ad valorem tax impact is 890,000 in annual ad valorem tax that will be brought in as a result of this project. 160,000 in total sales taxes collected, just to give you an idea of the economic impact of this type of mixed-use project if approved tonight. So in terms of the process itself, you will see the project again at the site plan stage. If approved as a permit, the code requires that the site plan has to be reviewed and approved by this board before the developer could move forward for building permits. For the conditional use permit itself, it's only good for 18 months. So once a permit is approved, the idea is that there's progress, they're moving forward towards the building permit process. If not, if it expires, then they won't be able to move forward. In terms of review, it's also reviewed by police and fire and other outside county agencies under the DRC process and the building review process. In terms of the project certification itself, the developer is proposing LEED certification, so it's looking to incorporate certain energy conservation elements as well as green elements throughout the entire project. This concludes START's presentation at this time.
Thank you very much, Madam Director.